It has been exactly 3 months since we started our long-term wheel coating test. If you remember right, we have 3 dedicated wheel coatings, one which is technically a dedicated paint coating on here, and today we're going to see how these things are holding up. So we're not only going to look at the overall cleanliness of these wheels as we've cleaned them before, but overall just see how they're looking. We're going to do a hydrophobics test on them. We're going to fully clean these things up to see if we can tell any differences in between them. So welcome back to the channel. Let's jump into it. Well guys, thanks for being here today, and hopefully it's starting to get a little bit warmer in your neck of the woods so you can get outside, do a nice spring cleanup on your vehicle, and hopefully apply some more protection after a really nasty winter. For whatever reason, Colorado just completely skipped winter. I mean, the mountains are like bare as can be. It was literally 90 degrees here yesterday towards the end of March, which is just absolutely insane. So we literally had 2 snowstorms the entire winter down here on the Front Range. Now, we are doing our 3-month update today on our long-term wheel coating test. At the same time, also remember we have our long-term paint coating test going on the actual body of the vehicle. I'll be separating those videos out, but today is all about wheels. Now you guys can see we need to do a little cleanup here. The tires looking pretty bad. The wheels looking pretty bad as well. But I want to quickly run you through our contenders here, what we're going to be doing in today's video. So over here on the front axle, we've got Armor Detail Supplies wheel coating. Back here, we've got CarPro Deluxe. And then on the flip side, if I can scurry over here a little bit quicker, we've got G-Technics C5 wheel armor here. And then for our actual paint coating, that is up here. That is Clean by Pan the Organizer's 8-year ceramic coating. So the whole thing I want to do today is give these things a little bit deeper of a clean. So what I first want to do is we're going to walk around, quickly look at the dirtiness in between them, see if any of them are cleaner or dirtier. Now, of course, typically your front wheels always dirtier than your back wheels. I am planning to get the tires swapped off of my winter tires here soon to the summer tires. So the coatings that are up here will go on the back axle. The back axle wheels will come up here, and they'll be able to get a fair competitive advantage throughout this. So after we check just overall looking at how these things look, we'll do a quick rinse down test. I'll actually dry the wheels completely to see how clean the wheels got from just rinsing it down. Then we'll go in, we'll scrub them down, we'll check out the hydrophobics after we've actually cleaned them, because you'll probably see a big distinct difference there. And then we'll continue on with the test. Now understand, with this wheel cleaning video, I am not trying to use super harsh chemicals on the wheels. So what we're going to be using today is just a nice pH neutral wheel cleaner. That's going to be Armor Detail Supplies iron removing wheel cleaner here. We'll get some of those iron deposits off, give it a good spring refresh, if you will. We'll also be cleaning up the tires as we go. So if I look over here at ADS, the barrel's not looking so great. So ton of dirt, ton of grime in there, which is pretty common. Your barrels are always going to be dirtier than the faces here. I did clean these probably about 2 weeks ago. Didn't go super in depth, just kind of rinsed them down, cleaned them, and we had a few rainstorms here, so it's been a little bit dirty, but honestly, not looking terrible, just needs a cleanup. If we come up back here to CarPro Deluxe, you'll see the barrels, which is interesting, not beating as much as the ADS up there, which might actually tell an interesting story. But the face of the wheels, honestly looking pretty good. Also, Mr. Oliver wants to say hello. As we come over here to the G-Technic side, honestly, looking about the same. I am quite surprised back there, not a ton of beating. And if you guys remember from the other tests that we've done with this, this had the worst water behavior. This is more of a sheeter rather than a beater, which is, I say worst. That technically isn't the worst. It's just very different style that ceramic coatings have on them. Now our paint coating up here is looking pretty much about the same, honestly, as the ADS. Still a little bit dusty, of course, on the barrels. And I know for most of you, you're like, why didn't you do this on a BMW? An electric car, you never use the brakes. I use the heck out of this brakes because all my cars get driven very, very hard. So let's get into quickly rinsing these, quickly drying them. So we'll start off here with Armor Detail Supply. We're going to rinse this down. I want to look at the hydrophobics here, both on the face as well as the barrels, to see what kind of story that tells us. Clearly, this is a coating that has a lot of water beating behavior, which I think you'll see, but I also think probably in the barrels, you're going to see it be a little bit flat. It doesn't mean the coating is dead. That just means there's a lot of contamination sitting on top of that coating, of which we need to remove with some chemicals and some agitation. Right, so very clearly here, I think you can see amazing water behavior right on the face of the wheel. Then you transition into the barrels and you can see it becomes very flat, and I can also see quite a bit of dirt remaining there. So not definitely at the point of this is just completely rinse off your wheel here and it's completely perfectly clean, but definitely did a good job on the face. Definitely could be a little bit better there on the barrel. I think we're gonna see that throughout all of these wheels, as it's been a while since I've done a deep clean. Back here we have CarPro Deluxe. This coating has been around for years, and I gotta say I absolutely hate installing it. It comes off literally quite like molasses, and it's just a sticky coating to deal with, but hopefully that means we have great protection on here. So very much the same thing. As you can see, the face is looking pretty darn nice there. Great water behavior on the front of it. Then once you see inside of the barrels, you can see it's very flat, filled with contamination. So again, that's why we're gonna go through and actually clean these. I think this iterates a great point here. Ceramic coatings are awesome, but they also do need to be maintained. This is not something you can leave on your car forever here, right? And just rinse your wheels and they're 100% perfect. Especially after a rainstorm, like you could see in the barrels there. What that indicates to me is we have a lot of the oil that comes off of the surface of the roads in general. We've got a lot of contamination in there, hence why we need to remove it. Back here, we've got our G-Technic wheel armor. Let's see how this thing cleans up. So interesting, slightly different than I remember here. We've got a little bit more water beating behavior, but you will see some overall flatness, especially on the face of the wheel. So again, a little bit more of a sheeter rather than a beater. Now on the barrel, what I'm noticing here is it actually looks reasonably clean, but there's definitely still contamination in there, still very flat. So hoping after we go through, clean that, it'll look a little bit better. Clean by Pan's 8-year coating here on the front driver's side axle. Let's see how this thing is. Okay, so pretty interesting here. I would say water behavior, especially on the face, very similar to the ADS wheel. But what's really interesting is the barrel does seem to beat up a little bit more, meaning I do think there's a little less contamination overall on this. Again, it's not perfect here. These definitely need to be cleaned. By the time we dry this, you're still gonna see a bunch of dirt and stuff in there, but the water behavior, pretty darn interesting. It seems a little bit different from ADS as well as the CarPro one. All right, so after just quickly rinsing and drying, well, I gotta say, I'm pretty underwhelmed by this here. So yeah, still tons of dirt and grime, especially in the barrels. You can see the faces here still have quite a bit on them. And I would say, yeah, definitely not something that you're just gonna put on there, rinse your wheels down, and they're gonna be 100% clean, nor do I really think that's the case with any of them. Coming back here to Deluxe, I think very similar story. You can still see the wheels, pretty grungy, dirty, grimy, pretty unimpressive with that. Now again, do keep in mind the front wheels have a little bit more dirt and grime in general than the rear ones, so arguably you could say this looks better, but I would say for the use case of not being so filthy back here, it didn't really do anything better. Now coming back here to G-Technic, I would say we got a very similar story. You can see the wheels, it's pretty dirty, pretty grimy all the way throughout. Definitely nothing exceptional. Coming over here to Pan's coating, pretty much same story. Yeah, all the way throughout. Some of the spokes maybe look a tiny bit shinier. I think you're splitting hairs here. You can still see in the barrels. We need a good cleanup, but I always think this is just an interesting test to do, to look at the hydrophobics here. I would say overall the best hydrophobics were here, but after drying them, I mean, marginally, yeah, if not even sort of marginally different than ADS over here, but very interesting throughout. So let's get the wheel bucket filled up now. Let's get our mixtures ready. We'll get these wheels and tires cleaned up and see how they do after the fact. So I want to run you through the process here of how I actually clean a wheel and the chemicals that we're going to be using today. So ADS wheel cleaner, this is a pH neutral cleaner with a lot of those same benefits that a lot of other cleaners out there have of removing all of that nasty brake dust, bleeding it off purple. Now we're also going to be using ADS's tire cleaner. Now, a lot of you like using things like Adam's wheel and tire cleaner. Those are heavy alkaline cleaners, very similar to this, which is why I prefer them to not use them on the wheels. I really just like using them on the tires. So that'll be our actual tire cleaner here, not our wheel and tire cleaner. And then in the Griot's foam cannon here, we just got a nice pH neutral shampoo to help us with these soft gloss black wheels to not totally scratch them up. So typically what I'll do here, and I'll run you through the whole process and I'll skip the other three and we'll come back to the end. I'm gonna spray down the wheel with water. I just like to have lubrication on there, spray our cleaners on there, let them dwell for a little bit, foam it down, and then start agitating. So I'm gonna come in here with our wheel cleaner first off. Make sure we hit all the faces, get all the barrels, get the caliper as well while we're at it. And that should be plenty good to go there. Now we're also going to hit our tires. I'm going to try and leave this off the wheel as much as possible. Again, that alkalinity in there, especially on some lighter duty wheel coatings that can start to degrade them over time, which is why I'm not using heavy alkaline cleaners on the wheels here. I'm going to stick with pH neutral. Now we're going to come in with our pH neutral soap as this has been soaking. All right, so I'm going to start here on our tires. This doesn't really matter exactly for this test, but just need to do a little cleanup to get some tire dressing back on these. Make sure they're not looking disgusting. Next, what I'm going to do is come in with my wheel face brush here, and I'm just going to hit the big stuff. I'm not worried about capturing everything, getting all the intricate details. I'm just going to get right in here, get all the face. Next, I'm going to come in with a little bit softer lug nut brush. I'm going to hit, of course, right around the lug nuts. Crazy name for a brush there, isn't it? Get those, and then we'll focus on our more intricate details here. Almost called it deals again, didn't I? Hit right around the valve stem, hit those, and then we're going to work in this little area here. Okay, next we're going to focus on our barrels with the easy detail brush. The interesting thing is here, it starts to grab, and then I can just feel all that dirt and grime get released on there, which means the coating is doing its thing. Honestly, pretty minimal effort required here to clean these things up. And I'll also come in here with another easy detail brush that I have slightly bent and also slightly smaller. It's going to get right behind those spokes for us there. Also hit the caliper while we're at it. All right, and lastly, I'm going to come in here with my wheel. It's not brush here. What the heck is this thing called? Little mitt. It's a tiny little mitt. And this is just going to make sure I get all those areas, make sure all that contamination is off. We're good to go. This also gives me the opportunity to fully get behind all of the spokes, making sure those are nice and clean as well. And I'll flip this over and get all the way to the back on the barrels as well. Nice, so that is our full clean here. Let's get to rinsing, check out the hydrophobics. Well, I'm sure you guys can see there, hydrophobics came back beautifully well. Can tell the wheel is absolutely sparkling clean now. And look at those barrels, how those came back. Really, really impressive results there from ADS. So I'll do those on the other three. I will show you the final rinse, but I'm going to do that same exact process. Just going to save you a little bit of time, show you how the water behavior comes back on each. Right, so I want to give you guys some feedback here on the slickness versus all of them before we rinse this off. And I gotta say, it feels pretty darn nice. Man, I'd say especially the barrels feel exceptionally slick here. Very, very similar to ADS. And again, this is our CarPro Deluxe here. So let's rinse this up and let's see how clean we got them and the hydrophobics. Right, so straight back to it here. Yeah, really, really impressive hydrophobics here from CarPro Deluxe. You can see even in the barrels as well, just looking really, really nice here. So great slickness on this. And yeah, they look like they cleaned up perfect here. So subjective feelings, and I've been cleaning these up on the G-Technic side of things. I do have to say the slickness is quite a bit less than both the ADS so far as well as CarPro Deluxe. I wouldn't say it's bad, but you can definitely feel just as you're using any sort of brushes or the wheel mitt there, it's just got a little bit more grab to it, so not quite as slick. But let's see how the hydrophobics are as we rinse this down. Right, so very different coating here. I think you can see it does have a little bit of water beading behavior, but it does definitely sheet. So it definitely captures that water a bit and, you know, kind of spreads it off the surface like more of a sheeter rather than a beater here. Definitely not bad by any means. You can definitely still feel we have protection on here. There's no doubt about that. And I'm sure this wheel will look just as clean as the others, but we'll definitely have to see. Man, I tell you what, guys, here, the slickness on Pan's 8-year coating is almost unmatched here that we've tested so far. I would say ADS is very closely behind, not bad at all for sure, but this is just like, I mean, it's almost hard to keep the actual wash mitt on here. It's so darn slick. And wow, pretty darn impressive here, especially considering, right, this is not a dedicated wheel coating. This is a paint coating. Oh my gosh, the barrels just feel incredible. It's crazy how you can just very quickly feel that dirt lift away as you come right back over it. It is just like warm butter moving over a hot pan. That is pretty crazy. Yeah, absolutely here. Exceptional water behavior. This and ADS, both the best water behavior out of the bunch here for sure. You know, CarPro Deluxe definitely slightly behind, but these things are just true crazy, crazy beaters. So pretty impressed here. Next on, let's dry these up and we'll go around and see how they all look. All right, guys, we've got all the wheels cleaned up and fully dried. And truth be told, they all look freaking awesome. And that's kind of what I expected here. There's very small differences, at least that we can see up here until 3 months right now. Now, I'll be curious to see how these last. Hopefully we'll get a bigger winter this upcoming year in 2026 for Colorado here, and we'll really see some heavy dirt and grime. But I gotta say, all of them, I mean, they just cleaned up beautifully well. You can see the gloss black wheels just absolutely popping again. So that's the ADS up here. Back here, CarPro Deluxe. Honestly, zero difference in between them. The one thing I will tell you that I did notice when drying Deluxe, the water behavior on the ADS as well as Pans, definitely a step above the CarPro Deluxe back here. So let's pop over here to the driver's side while we're at it as well. Let's come over here, and this is Pans, and still just, yeah, absolutely glistening throughout. You can see the nice tight water beads in there as I missed a few spots while drying. Still really, really nice and clean. Then we come back here to G-Technic, and it did get pretty clean. You'll just notice some differences in the water behavior there. Definitely no real huge differences, I would say here. You can definitely still feel a protection on all of them for sure. The thing that was most interesting, I guess, to me, I kind of expected the first rinsability test to be better on basically all of them. We must have just had a bunch of crud on our roads. Man, they did really not release any of that. But you can see the hydrophobics came back on everything here, which means we have no failed coatings, anything like that. So yeah, pretty interesting 3-month update here. I really think this front axle are my 2 favorites so far. CarPro Deluxe, again, if you're looking for a wheel coating, man, that one just applies like absolute honey. I would say probably G-Technics is easiest to install. Pans is like same amount of easiness. This one's slightly a little bit more grabby, but then goes away. This one real pain in the butt to install. So interesting update here. I think the next time I'll update you here on the wheels is unless I see something really drastically change, or probably we'll see it at that 6-month mark. So stay tuned as well. I'm not sure if the paint coating video will be live before this or after. Whichever one, I'll make sure it's linked in the description below, because that's also an absolutely fascinating test. We'll see you in the next one soon. Bye-bye.